the sports betting network.
This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome into the VSiN Morning Line. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford, recapping a fantastic weekend of football, not just in the NFL, but in college football too. Probably the best weekend of the year we've had. We'll get into all of that, but first, let me give you a look at what's coming up on the show. We have two guests today. The first one, Rich Gannon, our Monday regular, former NFL quarterback and VSiN analyst, coming up at 8:30 Eastern. Then later on in the show at 9:30 Eastern, Chuck Pagano joining Michael Lombardi to discuss their takeaways from the season so far. Coming up in this hour, we're going to recap the top games from NFL Week 4, take a look at the head coaches on the hot seat, recap the best of college football Week 5 and some changes in the AP poll, and then review some of Sunday's performances from the younger quarterbacks in the NFL. But let's start with that Sunday night football game. Quite the opposite results for the Bills in their previous primetime performance. This time, they're the ones getting blown out, 35-10 to the Baltimore Ravens. If you laid the 2.5 with the Ravens, you can cash that. The under 47.5 also hit. But Michael, I mean, Ravens still proven themselves to be a top team in this league, and the Bills, who everyone was so high on last week, and all that money coming in on Josh Allen MVP, kind of looked like a pumpkin last night. What went wrong in this one?
Well, they can't play run defense. I mean, they're small defensively. We know that. And if you go back to week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals, Arizona was running the football effectively on them. They just got behind and couldn't continue to run. But this was a game about physicality. This was a game about Baltimore saying, we're just going to power you. The first play of the game is a wham play, a classic wham play, and it goes for, 87 yards? I mean, it's supposed to go for 5. If Rasul Douglas fits the gap in there, he's going to tackle him for a 6-yard loss. Next thing you know, it's 87. When you have 34 attempts for 270-plus yards, an average, 8.0 a carry, and really Lamar only had 6 carries in the game for 54 yards. So this was a beating that is really indicative of what can happen to the Bills if they get into one of these situations. And then I think the other factor, Harrison, is the fact that Baltimore going into the game was very good. Best run defense in the National Football League. Horrible fourth quarter defense, but really good in stopping the run. And that put all the pressure on them. Buffalo averaged 3.5 a carry, and they didn't have that multidimensional game that they were used to in the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, matchups makes fights, and this was not a fight for the Buffalo Bills. Going into Sunday's game, you had injuries to Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Teron Johnson, and then during the game as well, they lost Taylor Rapp. It was going to be extremely difficult for this Buffalo Bills defense to play at such a high level, considering they were going to be missing all those guys, and you're going against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. With that being said, I still don't feel worried about the Bills, particularly because the Jets still don't look very good. And we know the issues with the Miami Dolphins. I don't feel bad about my Josh Allen MVP ticket. I still think he has opportunities to prove that he's still the most valuable player in the NFL, particularly because that offense still doesn't have a premier playmaker. So I don't feel encouraged if I was a Bills fan. But I would still say I'm maybe unbothered because of all of the injuries. And Grace, even if you look further along for the Buffalo Bills, maybe on their route to trying to get to a Super Bowl, there's only one Lamar Jackson. There's only one Derrick Henry. There's not a lot of teams who are structured like the Baltimore Ravens are with that rushing attack and having a great ability to make teams one-dimensional offensively because of their run defense.
Right. And that was part of my handicapping process going into this one, was the Bills won't be able to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I mean, Henry came a fumble away from a 200-yard game. Lamar just does Lamar things. The Ravens outgained the Bills on first downs 22-12. They outgained them in yards 427 to 236. So I like your line about matchups winning this game. And there is an interesting stat here. The Bills' NFL record streak of 43 consecutive regular season games without a loss by 6 or more points comes to an end. So they've either won or lost by no more than one possession in 43 straight games. And that just comes down to the matchup in this one, Harrison.
Yeah, I would also say this, Grace. You pointed out that Josh Allen MVP. I still like my ticket, but I'm not going to like it if Joe Brady keeps trying to call laterals. Do you see that play with him and Curtis Samuel? He almost got demolished on that hit there. So I didn't like that per se, but overall, I think we're still good. And again, they're not going to see too many more matchups like that. But Joe Brady, please, my goodness, protect your quarterback by all means.
Yeah, Bills will be okay. This game will probably have some implications once we get to playoff seeding, but a long ways to go until we get to that point. Let's talk about the Broncos-Jets, because that was just a slop fest in the rain out there in New York. It took until the 11th drive of the game, more than 17 minutes into this one, for either team to move the sticks without the help of a penalty. Broncos go on to win 10-9. So they cover the 8.5 as an underdog. The under 39.5 hits. Michael, what was your biggest takeaway in this one?
Well, look, it was a bad weather day, but, that's what we're used to. I mean, again, this is the East Coast. We're not going to have perfect Sundays all the time. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers couldn't throw the ball down the field, they've dominated the front. The Denver Broncos stopped the Jets from even trying to run the ball. And then they got them into 17 third downs, and they couldn't convert. They only converted 4 of them. It was really both defenses dominated the game, and I think it came down to game management. Both team missed field goals in the fourth quarter. One of the field goals for the Jets could have won the game. But the bigger issue is the Jets' passing game. Where is it? Why couldn't they throw the football effectively on them? Why could Seattle throw the ball on Denver in week 1? And all of a sudden the Jets can. And then I think, to me, the constant, the back and forth, the penalties, and then what Aaron Rodgers said, Harrison, after the game, according to his head coach, I think there's deeper issues clearly at the Jets, because we know this. Look, Robert Saleh is a 34% win percentage coach in the league. It isn't like he's walking into the stadium, he's going to outcoach somebody. I think we saw Sean Payton outcoach him on Sunday.
Yeah, Rodgers was sacked 5 different times in this game. The multiple false starts just didn't help this offense. It's a shame, though. It's a shame. You are the New York Jets. You have a home game, and the opposing team throws for -7 yards in the first half. -7 yards in the first half, and you still lose the game. That's an incredibly bad loss for the New York Jets.
But Harrison, this is the classic game where this is the NFL. If you don't lose the game, if you don't do something stupid in the game like Doug Pederson continues to do on week after week after week, I don't know how Jacksonville fans tolerate his going for it on 4th down, and you give up points. I mean, look, the Saints lose the game by a point because they refused to kick a field goal with 4:07 to go in the game, which would have cut the lead. But, they're going to get the ball back again. Kirk Cousins didn't do anything in that game. Essentially, they kicked 4 field goals to the Atlanta Falcons. They got 12 points out of that. So, to me, a lot of this is strategy by the head coach, understanding the situational game, and, playing to your strengths. I mean, you don't have to be explosive on offense. You just got to be able to get the game in the fourth quarter and find a way to win it, which Mike Tomlin has been able to do for 3 out of the first 4 weeks. And clearly, Sean Payton was able to do it yesterday in bad weather. Grace?
There might be some drama brewing between Aaron Rodgers and head coach Robert Saleh. 5 false start penalties in this game. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, well known for his hard counts and cadences. Robert Saleh said after the game, maybe we need to do something about that. Maybe that's the reason for these false start penalties. Aaron Rodgers had an answer to that. Let's take a listen.
The cadence specifically, Robert said that might be something you guys have to dial back a little bit. Is that something you think could potentially help the situation?
It's one way to do it. The other way is hold them accountable. I mean, we haven't had an issue. We've had 1 false start. Morgan had 1 false start, I believe, until this. So, it's been a weapon. We use it every day in practice. We rarely have a false start. And to have, 5 today, it seemed like 4 or 5. Yeah, it seems like an outlier. I don't know if we need to make mass changes based on, kind of an outlier game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, but that Saleh don't want anybody upset with him. I mean, because look, let's face it, when you're a 34% win percentage coach, you want the players to like you, so you're going to do things that are going to make them very comfortable. I think this is a game. I think really the reality of this game is, and when you look at the Jets on the season, I mean, Aaron Rodgers averaged 6 yards per attempt passing. And when they took Garrett Wilson out of the game, I mean, that became a real issue. Now, I know weather was a factor in the game. There's no question. But, look, you got to play in bad weather all the time. But Garrett Wilson averaged 8.2 yards a catch in the game, and then when they can't get going, I don't know what happened to Breece Hall. I really don't, Harrison. I have no idea because he's in witness protection. I mean, all of a sudden, Allen became the feature back. Breece Hall got 10 carries for 4 yards in the game. I don't know what's going on. And then Did you see the miscommunication on some of the pass routes? They're trying to run what we call indigo, which is a clear in route, and the guy never runs the in route. To me, they look poorly coordinated on both sides, on offense particularly.
Yeah, Breece Hall went out straight up missing. And when it comes down to Garrett Wilson, I'll point out something that we've been talking about in the prop shop yet again. Patrick Surtain definitely locking down in coverage again. Stop Garrett Wilson from hitting his over on receiving props, something to keep track of going forward. But chief among those issues with penalties, Grace, the biggest one, first half, 4th and 1. 4th and 1 I think with the 2-yard line, and the Jets get a false start, have to settle for the field goal. They get a touchdown there. They probably win the game because there was not a lot of points to be scored. But you get a false start inside the 2-yard line, and that circumstance ends up being like the game.
Right, and I will add, Jets had 17 total penalties, costing them 90 penalty yards. So false starts, not the only issue here, but it's also not the first time we've seen some little drama between Saleh and Aaron Rodgers. We saw it in primetime against the Pats. So like Michael said, something deeper going on there. All right, more recap from Week 4 on the other side. You're watching the VSiN Morning.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big. We go all night. And here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Monday on Follow the Money, a big Monday Night Football doubleheader. We recap a wild weekend, college and pro football, look at the openers with Nick Bogdanovich, and set the scene with the MLB playoffs. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's Late Night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we recap Week 4 of the NFL. A few coaches feeling the seats underneath them, getting a little bit warmer. We are on head coach hot seat watch, and a few of these a little bit more obvious than others. Doug Pederson, that's one that's a little bit more obvious, as his Jaguars now fall to 0-4 on the season. 0-4 is a hole that only the 1992 San Diego Chargers have climbed out of to reach the playoffs. So things are looking bleak after C.J. Stroud's late game touchdown pass lifts the Texans to a 24-20 win against the Jags. The Jags do cash as a 5.5-point underdog, and the under 46.5 hits. But Michael, the Jags showing some signs of life in this game. They did lead for over half the game. What ultimately went wrong for them?
Well, their fourth quarter. I mean, they didn't get anything done in the fourth quarter, and they turned down points. I mean, once again, he's got the ball. He's 40% going into the game on fourth down, but that doesn't deter him. I mean, it doesn't stop him from ever going for it on every single fourth down. And, you know, he doesn't get, he goes for it on fourth down, doesn't get it, can't power anybody back. So the fourth quarter, they have 2 first downs. They're 0 for 2. They only have the ball for 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and he turns down points. And those points end up costing him. You know, those points end up costing him at the end. Now, obviously, with Houston scoring the touchdown at the end to go 24-20 to win the game, but to me, this is a team that just has no physicality to them, and they can't get the pass rush when they need it. Particularly, you couldn't find Walker. You know, Joshua Allen was able to put some pressure on them, but, you know, Houston didn't play their best game. And Jacksonville was able to move the football, but they couldn't get a ball in the end zone. And, look, the quarterback couldn't really make a throw down the field. Brian Thomas was really good in the game, but they're struggling. I know that, Grace, Doug Pederson, I mean, they're 0-4. The owner knows that this is the best team. He said it. This is the best team he's had here. So I like Jacksonville in the 6.5 when it opened. I thought it was a good play. I thought it would be a close game. It was. But to me, I think you look at this and you say, at what point does Jacksonville find a way to not do something stupid, Grace?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the Texans are, you know, having an off day like they did, you got to take advantage. And Doug Pederson, after the game, he knows where his status is at this point. His success kind of goes hand in hand with Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't looked good. But local media asking him about his job status, here's what he had to say.
My status?
Yeah. After an 0-4 start.
I mean, no. I mean, it's kind of a strange question, but okay.
Well, I don't know if it is a strange question. It's a strange time to ask the question after the game. I think the better question would have been to ask him is, Doug, you got the ball back with 3:51 to go in the game. You had a chance to seal the game at that point, and you got 1 yard. Like, what's wrong with your offense when it matters the most? Again, let's be real clear here. The NFL is about the fourth quarter. The NFL is about when they know we have to run it, can we run it? When they know we have to throw it, can we throw it? And Jacksonville fails those tests every single week. It's one thing to be close in games, but it's another thing to be able to pass that fourth quarter test, which they can't seem to do at all. They have no chance of doing it. They had 2 drives in the fourth quarter after he turns down points, and he basically got 2 first downs after that. Got the ball back with 8:31 to go in the game. He ran some clock off. Houston gets the ball back, and I'm watching the game. I'm thinking to myself, Harrison, if Houston gets the ball back and scores, this will cover. This will be the right win. But then Houston doesn't convert. They have to punt. It's 4th and 15, and all of a sudden Jacksonville gets the ball back with 3:51 and barely runs a minute of clock off. I mean, you tell me, why aren't you on the hot seat, Harrison?
Yeah, I could definitely understand. Those decisions for Doug Pederson definitely put him on the hot seat. When you have a team that's been raved about to be a potential team that could win a division, maybe win a couple games in the playoffs, for sure, he should be on the hot seat. But is there a hot seat for Trevor Lawrence? Like, he missed multiple throws that could have given this team.
Hold on, Harrison. He was brought in to fix Trevor Lawrence. See, here's what Doug Pederson has trouble. Sam Darnold's up there playing lights out, and Kevin O'Connell's made him a better player. Like, everybody's asking that question. Doug Pederson had to be in the room when they gave the guy $54 million, and he had to sign off on it. So, like, okay, we can say Lawrence stinks, and there's no question he's not playing well at all. I grant you that. But at some point, Doug was brought in to fix him. And then they go and give him all this money. So you can't blame him. Like, the guy at the charge at the head of the table is Doug, and their team's undisciplined. They do some stupid things. You can't deny the stupidity of it. You really can't. You can go for it all you want on fourth down. You were 40%. You were 4 for 10 on fourth down already this season. And now you go for it again. Now you're 4 for 11. Why don't you just keep going for it, Harrison? It makes sense.
All I'm saying, and I totally agree. If it was his job to fix Trevor Lawrence, it's his job to fix Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence needs to fix himself. He missed a couple of opportunities out there. I'm thinking about that one pass to Brian Thomas where he was wide open for a touchdown, overthrew him. And then also, too, this secondary is no good. So when you go against a team like the Texans, even though they don't have Tank Dell, they're able to execute on a number of possessions and end up winning the game. So, yes, Doug Pederson is on the hot seat, scorching hot. But Trevor Lawrence needs to look himself in the mirror and realize he's very much part of the issue too, and he has to have accountability for how poorly he's played and their current record at 0-4, which is almost unbelievable to say.
Yeah, I don't deny that Trevor Lawrence has to be blamed, Grace. I really don't. I don't deny that. But at the end of the day, they can't fire Trevor Lawrence. That contract is too expensive. They can't fire him. So the guy that's got to assume responsibility. I mean, look, Doug comes out to the press conference and says, hey, the coaches can only put the players in the right place. Why don't you go listen to what Mike Tomlin says about coaches that say that? Because there's a great video on Twitter about that, where you're basically just passing a buck to the players. And Tomlin, who basically makes all those statements perfect. So to me, look, the Jaguars are a flawed team. They can't. How about this? They run the ball for 6.6 yards a carry in the game, and when they need to run the ball, they can't.
Well, Harrison, to your point, Trevor Lawrence has now lost his last 9 starts. He ranks 25th in EPA per dropback, and it's mostly because those explosive plays have disappeared. You mentioned the one to Brian Thomas. He is 40% completion rate on passes of 15 air yards or more, 3 of 11 in this past game. But let's move ahead to the Eagles and Bucks, because Nick Sirianni now joining this short list of coaches who might be unemployed after the season. Philly trailed 24-0 after going 3-and-out on each of its first 3 drives. They were outgained 255 yards to 0 at one point in the second quarter. That's now They've been outscored 33-14 in the first half of their last 3 games. So we talk about how do you start the game all the time. Eagles aren't starting fast, Michael.
Well, look, Sirianni's lost 10 of 13. I mean, this game was over in the first quarter. I mean, first of all, it was really hot. And so you knew Philly was going to struggle just because they are not a well-conditioned team. I mean, I know that, I listened to the broadcast. They had IVs all week long. Well, IVs don't take the place of conditioning, right? If you could take an IV to lose weight or get in shape, I'm sure all of us would do it. But you can't do that, right? IVs replenish fluids, and they help you regenerate. They don't help you stay in shape. But this Eagle team, especially when they're front, can't control the game. They didn't really make Baker Mayfield struggle at all. And then they can't cover. I mean, they can't cover a lick. They couldn't cover at all. And Jalen Hurts is turnover prone. Obviously missing the right tackle. Lane Johnson was a problem. But this Bucs defensive front dominated. And without all of their skill players, look, I think the Eagles have to get healthy, have to regroup, and they've got to figure out what's their best course of action defensively, because they got roped. I mean, they just got the ball moved up and down. Every time you thought Philly was going to make a move to get back into the game, they block the extra point, score it. Here comes Tampa Bay right down the field, Harrison. So, look, they're 2-2, and they deserve to be 2-2. They're just not a good enough team right now. And Sirianni's got his work cut out for him, because everything that goes wrong is always on him, and the quarterback's not playing very well at all.
Yeah, hard to play complimentary football for the Eagles yesterday. Got to blame Kellen Moore and Sirianni for not being able to survive the losses of Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. But those have to be noted. Those are two players that are very quintessential to their offensive attack. With that being said, part of the reason why they're on the hot seat, simply because of Sirianni, is because they play in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia does not play around. If you go and look at social media and you look at C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you look at a posted and then deleted tweet by Darius Slay, how the Philly media was pressing Nick Sirianni in that press conference yesterday. It's not easy when you lose come Sunday or Monday in Philadelphia, and that's what Sirianni's going to go through for at least the next week.
Ooh, deleted tweets, never a good sign. They got to learn. Things on the internet live forever. All right, coming up next, an absolutely wild weekend of college football. Georgia, Alabama, an instant classic, plus chaos in the Big 12. That's coming up next on the VSiN Morning Line.
And they're off.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the VSiN Morning Line. Harrison Sanford, Michael Lombardi, and Grace Remington joining you on this Monday morning, where there was a wealth of football to be enjoyed. Whether you were like me on the couch because it was raining all weekend in New York, or if you were like Grace and Michael, who actually got to experience football in the elements. Grace was in Oxford, Michael was in Tuscaloosa for that very fun game between Alabama and Georgia. We'll get you updated on Jalen Milroe's Heisman prospects now after that win. But let's just talk about the weekend, y'all. Michael, what was your experience like, or the best parts of your experience going down to Tuscaloosa?
Well, I got to Tuscaloosa on Thursday, and the town was already alive. It was packed. It was hard to even get an Uber in the town. I mean, it was really alive. You could feel it. Restaurants had 3-hour waits to get in. So it was just, felt like a playoff atmosphere in the National Football League, only it was different being on a campus. And so it was great. The game was incredible. The game, had the ebb and flow, the big lead. You always, it's great to get a big lead like Tampa did against Philadelphia, like Alabama did against Georgia, but the game's going to get into the fourth quarter against good teams. They're going to keep going and keep bucking. I think what happened last night between Buffalo and Baltimore is when you can't stop the run, you can keep those big leads. But if you can, like Georgia was able to do at some point in the game, and certainly Philly did at some point in that game, teams can make a comeback. And I think that made it just incredible. So, Grace, I know the Grove is great at Ole Miss. Yeah. This was a great game. I'm sure we're going to get a repeat of this. And just because you're number one in the country, you saw an upset. I mean, you saw a huge upset with Kentucky going in there, winning on the last play, basically the last play of the game on a great throw and catch. But that atmosphere, it marvels no one down in Oxford.
Oh, absolutely. And right when I showed up to Oxford, I mean, honestly, guys, it's hard not to get emotional when you just see the passion around college sports and you hear the marching band. I mean, I didn't realize how much I missed game day. I've been to Oxford a few times in the last few years, but it was in the spring, so I've been going to baseball games. I hadn't been to an Ole Miss football game since Matt Luke was the head coach. And back then, I mean, the student section wasn't even halfway full. People were leaving games early. I was really pleasantly surprised here. It was a close game, but the stadium was packed the entire game. They did the stripe the Vaught, so you alternate depending on where your seat is, wearing powder blue or red. The stadium was just gorgeous. Vibes were at an all-time high. I mean, even the Grove after the game was popping for a few hours. And it's funny, guys, because I'm always reminded how my job maybe jades me a little bit because, after the game, I'm kind of compartmentalizing, what went wrong, taking notes. Okay, keep that in mind for next week. But now let's check the schedule, see what else is on. And my friends, every 30 minutes were just like, man, I can't believe we lost that game. And I keep forgetting, like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be sad. But it was awesome being there. I mean, geez, I felt like Lane Kiffin kind of got away from who he was. And he even gave credit to Mark Stoops after the game, calling that deep shot on 4th and 11 out of character. And it was. So it was just an interesting reversal of roles for those two head coaches. But going into it, we kind of knew that this Kentucky defensive front would be the first legitimate test Ole Miss would play all season. I just felt like ultimately the game was decided by Kiffin playing not to lose instead of playing to win. But the good news with the expanded playoff is Ole Miss isn't out of it yet. They can still get the over on their 10.5 wins. It'll be a little bit more difficult, but that's life in the SEC. I mean, there's a lot of parity between these teams.
Yeah, that is for sure. Ole Miss will have more than enough opportunities with that schedule, Grace, to get themselves in that college football playoff running because of the opportunities with that schedule. But I do want to circle back to maybe some of the things that we learned or knew or confirmed from watching some of the games this weekend. So let me go back to that Alabama and Georgia game. Grace, you were on that first quarter. So if you tailed Grace on that one, congratulations. I was also on the first half. I think we've learned from watching Jalen Milroe and Kalen DeBoer in this new Crimson Tide offense, particularly with Ryan Williams, who's spectacular at the age of 17 years old at the wide receiver position, that this team is going to start fast. So as we continue to go forward here, Grace, maybe the books adjust it, but it feels like maybe a first half total, first half spread, first quarter totals, first quarter spreads might be the way to go because of how explosive Jalen Monroe has shown to be with this offense under Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I mean, part of that play was Georgia's slow starts in the first month of the season as well. That's been a 4-year trend at this point. But I mean, Alabama wouldn't have won that game without Jalen Milroe. I mean, he's just incredible. The way Kalen DeBoer has unlocked something in him that Saban honestly never did, has been fantastic. I mean, Milroe is taking fewer sacks. He didn't take a single one in that game. I really think DeBoer has Milroe understanding what the play should be. He's not sitting in the pocket forever, kind of counting out, okay, there's option 3, there's option 4. And remember, at this point, at last year too, Milroe was still kind of going through a quarterback battle. But they've built this team around him. I mean, he's playing with much more confidence, and he's the size of a linebacker out there playing quarterback too. So Alabama, I mean, should they be number 1 in the country? That might be a little bit overreaction by these AP poll voters, but looking at the top 4, I definitely think either Alabama or Georgia could be interchangeable at that 4 or 5 spot, Harrison.
Yeah, speaking of spots that are changing, Jalen Monroe is now the favorite to win the Heisman. Opening the season, he was 7-1. Now he's plus 250 to win the Heisman, again, because he's dynamic. And when you get a win over Georgia, that definitely helps your odds as well. Michael, since you were there in town, I'm curious, what were the scouts saying about Jalen Monroe's possible prospects in the NFL draft? I mean, compared to Carson Beck, he does seem like maybe the more dynamic player. Beck has his set of advantages as well, but I'm sure there were NFL personnel there who were raving about Milroe and what he could be at the next level.
Well, I was a fan, so I wasn't in the press box to hear, but there were a lot of scouts there. But I think, from my scouting eye, that to me, Milroe is an outstanding prospect. I mean, Anthony Richardson went the 3rd pick overall in the draft, and he did not throw the ball with as much accuracy and as much timing as Milroe does. Now, he's bigger than Milroe, certainly taller, but the speed, I think when you saw that short yardage play where he kind of outruns everybody around the corner. I mean, let's just put things really in perspective with that question, Harrison. Was Jalen Hurts this good at Alabama? The answer would be no. He got benched at halftime because he couldn't throw the football, and they had to put 2 in the game. This kid can throw it and can run it. He's further along than Jalen Hurts was when he came out of Alabama. So I think the Heisman value is certainly there. I thought at the beginning of the season with Caden DeBoer coaching him and the offense being more dynamic, getting away from Tommy Rees and what they were trying to do down there, I thought this would benefit Jalen Milroe tremendously, and it has. Now it's got to continue, and he's going to have to continue to play well, but I think to me, this Alabama offense is really going to get more confidence, and Milroe gained a ton of confidence. Think about where he's come from, the Texas game last year to last Saturday. I mean, that's a huge leap, Harrison.
Yeah, with Milroe's odds in the Heisman race becoming shorter, the Heisman odds for Cam Ward have become longer. Grace, I know you were on the Hurricanes to win the ACC. The Heisman ticket for Ward did seem like it made a lot of sense, but man, they barely squeaked out a win this past weekend against Virginia Tech. If you had Virginia Tech plus a 17.5, or if you had the over, you are a winner. But the winners definitely felt like Miami because they escaped with a win, despite the fact that almost, to me, I thought that was a touchdown, that Hail Mary at the end of the game
really?
there. It's a tough call nonetheless. To my original eye, Grace,
yeah.
I thought it was a touchdown, or maybe the sport dramatic fan in me wanted the drama of it being a touchdown.
I love the drama, but yeah, since I am backing Miami in so different ways, I obviously wanted the win, but I was trying to stay unbiased. I thought just my initial reaction, I didn't feel like he had possession of it. So I didn't think it was a touchdown, but I thought it was ridiculous that they would overturn that call. Because no matter which way you could call it a touchdown, you can call it incomplete. I just thought if you're going to review it, there wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. That was the shocking part to me.
Yeah, definitely shocking as well. So still feeling confident in Miami after that performance. Clemson has been playing well as of recent.
I know, but the good news for Miami is that they don't face Clemson unless it's in the ACC title game. Looking at their upcoming schedule here, they got Cal, Louisville, that could be a tough out. Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. Syracuse is good this year, but I definitely think we're going to cash this over 10.5. I mean, they're undefeated right now. I mean, yeah, I still feel good about everything except the Cam Ward ticket. I think this 2 interceptions could have, that ticket takes a hit there, but still strong on Miami.
Yeah, definitely still a strong case for them. By the way, Travis Hunter has now moved from 25-1 to 7-1. Coming up, it's the time to put tickets on Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. That's next.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Looking for the ultimate sports betting podcasts? VSiN has got you covered. With a wide range of podcasts covering every major sport, we're here to help you make smarter bets every season. The Baseball Betting Show with Greg Pederson gives you daily insights into finding value on each day's MLB card. And check out Long Shots, where we deep dive into the world of golf betting, providing you with expert insights to help you bet every tournament. Find all of these podcasts and more at VSiN.com/podcasts or your favorite podcast platform.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we continue our recap of Week 4 of the NFL season. I'm Grace Remington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. Jaden Daniels continues to light it up on the field, starring again in a Commanders win over the Cardinals, 42-14. His numbers are historical, so historical that right now he is matching numbers put up by Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. He's now the first odds-on favorite in any awards market this season, now sitting at odds of -120 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's been just thrilling to watch him, Michael. What stands out the most about his play to you right now?
Well, I mean, he's only had 19 incompletions in 106 attempts. I mean, think he's completed 87. He's got 82%. Now, when you say he compares to Brady and to Peyton Manning, it's not in their rookie year. I mean, it's during their careers. It's not during their rookie year because Manning couldn't even come close to these numbers during his rookie season. I mean, the team scored points on 16 consecutive drives, the longest by any team in the last 30 years. I mean, it's been really remarkable. They've only punted once in 3 games. And this offense it was a homecoming for Cliff, and I was on Russo on Friday afternoon. I took the Cardinals and laid the 3.5 as a recommendation. And look, they came out of the game and they couldn't stop them. Arizona couldn't come close to them. And Arizona's offense got shut down once they kept Kyler Murray in the pocket and made him play quarterback. So, look, this Washington team, I felt like they're just not good enough on defense. I mean, they're giving up 72% completion. They give up 7.9 yards per attempt. But when they play from in front and their offense is this good, Harrison, they're hard. I mean, right now, after 4 weeks, look, this is what, overreaction on Monday, but they look like the best team in the East. Now, I don't know if they can be better on defense because they don't look good on defense, but yesterday they did, Harrison.
Yeah, they're definitely playing at a high level, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe only on the offensive side of the ball because some of those defensive numbers still aren't great. And they lead in the NFL in first downs per game, top 6 in time of possession, top 6 in terms of third down conversions. And if you look at their schedule, too, it really makes you think, could this team potentially actually win the division? Because they have games against the Panthers, games against the Bears. They still have the Titans. So those games and another game against the Giants. So those all look like games they could potentially win. The question I'll have for Michael, despite the fact that they're playing at a high level, and despite the fact that it is they have some easier games on the schedule, is this actually sustainable? I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Teams get off to hot starts, and then all of a sudden, there's that one defensive coordinator that figures it out. And then once that one defensive coordinator figures it out, the entire league figures it out. So for me as a bettor, I'm thinking to myself, somebody's going to figure this out. And then when they do, you're going to see a decline. It will make me more inclined to say, what's that price on the Eagles to win the NFC East? What's that price to win for the Cowboys to win the NFC East? Because at a certain point, it has to happen.
Yeah, I definitely think this is going to decline. I mean, you can't go at 82%. It's unheard of. But the kid's made great throws. He's unbelievably as a runner. I mean, that's the thing. He's second leading rusher on the team. He averages 4.7 a carry. Robinson averages 4.7 a carry. They're able to run the football. They're protecting their offensive line. They're not putting them out there at harm's way. And look, they went from not scoring a touchdown against the New York Football Giants and their defense, which has a horrendous secondary, to then scoring 38 and 42 the next 2 weeks. So what tells you they're getting really much better. They're improving. And there was a number up there that Dan Quinn put up there, and which is what we all believe in the league, is rushing attempts plus completions. That tells you how your execution is going, and Washington's execution is at the highest level, Grace, it could be. So look, they're going to have issues on defense, there's no question. They get behind, how do they play like they did against Tampa Bay? But remember, in the Tampa Bay game, Cade York missed 2 field goals, which kind of hurt them, and Siebert's come in and not missed one since they signed him, Grace.
I do want to read this stat out loud that we've been mentioning just for listeners who may not have heard it yet. But Jaden Daniels, through his first 4 games, is completing 82% of his passes. In 2008, Peyton Manning, through 4 games, completed 81.8% of his passes. In 2007, Tom Brady, through 4 games, completed 79.2% of his passes. Peyton and Brady went on to win MVP in those seasons. The most impressive part of that completion rate for Jaden Daniels is these are not check down passes or behind the line of scrimmage or little intermediate throws. He's airing out the deep ball too. And making those. Deron Payne, defensive tackle for the Commanders, who's been with this team for 7 seasons, is loving it. I tried to count all the quarterbacks he's played with during his time in DC, and honestly, I lost track, guys. I got to 14 and lost track. But here was his reaction to Jaden Daniels' fantastic game.
Speaking of been here for a long time, what's it feel like to have a quarterback like Jaden?
Man, I love just being able to sit on the sideline, drink my Gatorade, and come back out there after they just scored, so it's nice.
Well, I mean, here's the difference between Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams won a game yesterday. He completed every throw he had for under 15 yards. He was 15 for 15. But when the ball travels more than 15 yards, he was 2 for 7, right? And so he struggles over 15 yards, where this kid doesn't struggle in any phase. Now, here's what I will say, and I'm not saying Caleb's not as good as Jaden or Jaden's better than Caleb, but what I am saying is Cliff Kingsbury's better than Shane Waldron. And he's done a better job of maximizing the skill set of Waldron around what they need to do offensively as opposed to Caleb. Now, yesterday, something got to the Bears. They decided, it might be a good idea to run the football, which really helped Caleb Williams and helped their team. But I think what Cliff Kingsbury's doing has been outstanding, and I think ultimately that's going to be the key for them moving forward. Can they keep this? And give Kingsbury credit. He takes a lot of crap, when he was a head coach, but what he's done as an offensive coordinator, Harrison, has been impressive.
And, the one thing that is helping Jaden Daniels versus what maybe isn't helping Caleb Williams is participation and enthusiasm from his star receiver. We've heard the quotes from Terry McLaurin saying that he's going to be patient. He understands he's dealing with a rookie quarterback. He hasn't moaned or groped about not getting targets or not being featured in the offense like maybe he would want to. And then conversely, if you watch the video from yesterday, DJ Moore was on the sidelines away from the team for majority of the game, seemingly unhappy with how his role has been so far with Caleb Williams or the lack of execution he's had so far with Caleb Williams. There was that one throw Caleb Williams could have called him in the end zone. It would have been a touchdown, but they just don't seem to be on the same page. And so, I think about this, Grace and Michael, just, when you have a rookie quarterback, he's going to have struggles. You're going to need everybody on your team to be in support of said player, particularly your star wide receiver, especially if that receiver's making good money. And so I juxtapose McLaurin, who had struggles with Daniels as well, with DJ Moore. And I think the body language or just the camaraderie that you would need for this rookie quarterback, those are on 2 different spectrums. And I think that does actually play a role in team success as well.
I think it's funny. I don't know if you guys remember this quote from Caleb Williams in the offseason, but he said the Bears punter will basically just take the season off because he won't be punting at all. And now you look over at the Commanders, they've punted once in the last 3 games. But Michael, I did think the good thing about this Bears win is that they did help Caleb Williams. They did find a run game there, right? DeAndre Swift had 20 yards on 13 carries last week. Against the Rams, he had 93 yards on 16 carries, plus that 36-yard touchdown. And that was kind of what we were griping on the Bears for last week, is you're putting way too much on this rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no question. They ran the football, and they ran against this Ram team has had so many injuries, and they just can't seem to get control of the game at any point with their defense. It's a miracle they won last week. I mean, this Ram team should be 1-3. They made that great comeback against San Francisco. No, excuse me, they should be 0-4. They made that great comeback, scoring 13 points with 6 minutes to go in the game. Look, Stafford's getting the crap beat out of him. They couldn't get the ball in the end zone. He threw a bad interception in the first half that was not like him, but the Rams just don't have enough depth on their team right now, and I think that's the biggest issue. And give the Bears credit. They ran the football effectively, which they need to do. If they're going to continue, they can't put the pressure on this quarterback. They've got to have some balance, Grace, within their offense.
Okay, I know I've said this stat before, and I hate it just as much as you guys, but Caleb Williams becomes the first quarterback taken number 1 overall to win his first 2 home games. Good for him. LOL. I'm just kidding. Shout out to the Bears defense, because that's who won the game for them yesterday. Okay, coming up next, we are looking ahead to Monday Night Football, Titans, Dolphins, and Seahawks, Lions in a doubleheader. We'll give you our keys to the game next. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with sharp betting analysis on the